Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening to tonight's kickoff of Year 2 of the IB Mathematics webinars. Thank you for being here. I'm going to do a little audio check here. Testing audio. All right, Daniel, is your audio here with us?
Can you hear me?
Oh, great. We can hear you.
Awesome.
All right. So while we're here, this is who we are. I'm Ruth. I'll be the host, kind of working in the background tonight while Daniel is out front doing all the presenting hard work with you all this evening. As we settle in, let's everybody have a chance to locate the chat. Find the chat bubble. It should be somewhere at the bottom of your screen if you haven't opened it yet. And then the chat will appear at the right side usually. It's different from different devices. Let's practice a chat to everyone. Let's say greetings from your and tell us your location. Just practicing in the chat. Daniel will be using the chat window throughout this evening's webinar to answer questions and send out information. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Wow, we are scattered around. That is awesome. Good morning in Hong Kong. That was awesome to see.
Excellent. So some people are sending the chats privately to me or to Daniel. How about we try everyone for the greetings? And then that'll just give you another practice there, sending it out to everyone. So in the drop-down menu, choose send to everyone. Thank you for trying that out. So that'll be your main route to sharing information and asking questions this evening. Let's move right along. Our presenter tonight is Daniel Wilkie. Daniel, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate it. Hello, my name is Daniel Wilkie, and I will be leading you through tonight's introductory webinar for year 2 of our TI-IB webinars. I have been teaching IB math for, I think, 18 years now, and I have been an examiner for the well, it used to be math studies. Now it's applications and interpretations course for the past 8 years. And I am a moderator for what used to be the math studies project, but now the math exploration for the last 6 years. And it was quite an interesting assessment process this year that I can't wait to share with you some of my insights from year 1 of the new curriculum. I'm currently teaching at Christ Church Episcopal School in Greenville, South Carolina, where I've lived in Greenville for the last 13 years now with my wife and 3 wonderful children. I teach IB math there, and I also teach pre-calculus. So I kind of get to have the kids for at least 2 straight years, which is kind of nice. So I get a nice continuation and fluidity with my math courses. I've been working kind of part-time with TI now this is my 6th year. So I get to do fun stuff like this, where I talk to teachers from not only my area, but around the country. And I love seeing in the chat room from around the world. That's kind of awesome. Another reason why I like IB and TI is I get to kind of hear what people have to say all over the place. It's awesome to see people from the Philippines and Hong Kong and in my own backyard, and easily a former colleague of mine. He's on here as well. So hi, Ronnie, how you doing? And so it's nice to see so many people from all over. So thank you for joining, and hopefully you'll get a little insight. That's just a little bit about me. So I'm ready whenever you are, Ruth. And I see you've already passed things over to me. So what I'm going to do today, let me throw up my agenda. Let me share my screen with you. All right, and make sure I still have the chat going on there so I can see that. So let's start, please. There you go. So this is, like I said, the second year of webinars that we are covering the new IB curriculum. Year one was just kind of getting a sense how people were feeling with the new curriculum, and we hadn't tested yet. So we were really unsure about what was going to happen, how people were going to deal with it. And then we just had our first assessment process. So hopefully you've gotten your scores back. If you have taught it already, and if you haven't taught it and you just want to get a little insight on things going forward, thank you for joining us. Hopefully we'll get some information out to you. But our goal here is to do, we're going to do 8 webinars this year. This one is our little introduction. And in this one, what we're going to cover is an overview of the different webinars that we're going to cover. So I'll put up that slide in a second. Since I just got done, and I'm actually, when I say just got done, I actually last week just graded my last exam, because if you're unaware, if teachers or schools were unhappy with the results from IB, they have the option to regrade the assessments. And so I'm part of that team as well. So there wasn't as many as there have been in the past, but I had about 20 to 30 exams that I regraded just to see if there were any changes in the grade. And through the grading of exams and through the grading of the IAs, I saw some common errors and struggles that I'm going to share with you and kind of give you a little heads up kind of going forward. And then I'm going to show you what we have been working on through TI, because a few years back, TI came to me and said, we want to do something with IB. And I'm one of a few IB TI people. And so I've been working with a small group of people in the country and from around the world, just trying to create activities, create a sample of exam style questions for you all to use to help you out through the process. So I'm going to show you what's new on our website, and then I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of what I'm working on right now, because what we kind of roll this out in phases. And at the end of last year was the end of our what we called phase 3, where we had 4 new activities and 8 updated activities. So I'm going to show you those, and then I'm going to show you the 4 new activities and the 8 updated ones that I'm currently working on right now. And then here's what I want you to start thinking of as we push through the evening. I need your help because the activities that I choose to either update or create new, I base off of one, how people dealt with the exam. I saw where people were struggling, so I picked some topics where hopefully I'm going to help you with your students prepare better for next year's examination. But creating activities does take some time, so that's why we only do about 8 to 12 every phase that we're doing these currently. So what I'm going to ask at the end, and you can start thinking of it right now, and I'm going to ask you to submit it either in the chat window or send me a personal email, is what topics would you like to see an activity created for? And I'll show you what I mean, because I'll show you the examples a little bit down the line. Okay, so start thinking about that. We still got about 40 minutes or so before we get to that. Well, Sarah, thank you for saying Voronoi. That was one of the new topics, so I'll show you that activity. I did create one for that, so hopefully you'll like it or find some use for it. But that was the first activity that I did, because I knew that topic, out of everything that we were covering in either IB math class, that was completely and utterly brand new. So I tackled that first. So you can kind of tell me what you think. And that's something else. I don't have it on the agenda, but when you look at these activities, if you can kind of give me an idea of what you think about them, and chi-square is what I'm glad you're all saying this stuff, because chi-square is what is an updated one. So perfect. I love seeing that. Just tell me what you think. If you think we're doing a good job, or if you think we can tweak them um, a little bit to better suit you. But just to let you know, and I'll talk more about this when we get to the examples, that you have the ability to adjust them to your liking as well. Because we do give you Word documents to go along with it, and you can adjust them to fit your classroom. Mine is a template that I hope you can use, but if you need to make some adjustments, by all means, please do so. And binomial distribution, that's in there too. So great. You're all saying things that I wanted to see. This is stuff that's either out there right now or I'm currently working on. So can't wait to show you. All right. So real quick, our expected outcomes for this webinar. I want you to understand the struggles that the students went through with the assessments. Because once I got my scores back, I was very happy with how my kids did. But I noticed that the scaled score was a little bit lower than what I was hoping it would be. So, and I think IB, and this is just me, my personal opinion, that I think it scaled down a little bit more so because it was a new curriculum, first test and stuff like that. So I think maybe there's a little bit wider of a range for each of your 1 through 7 scores. So although I was happy with my scores that I got, I was still questioning the actual number that they got to earn a 6 or a 7 or a 5, that they did in my class. So hopefully by doing this, by creating activities and doing more work like this, we can improve those scores. So by you seeing the struggles that the students had, maybe you can focus on that through this next year of assessments. And I want you to be able to go to the TI website and pick an activity that will be helpful to you. Maybe if you're examining in the November session, or next year's May 2022. So I want you to be able to use the TI-IB website for that. And then also, oops, sorry, went too far. And then I want you to be able to be part of the process. Because again, several people have already included what they want. That's what I want you to do. I want to get your ideas so that you feel like you're helping out and being part of the process, and you can use it right away. So thank you for that. All right. So here is just a list of what we're going to be covering for the next year, the next school year. So today, August 12th, that's just the general welcome back to school. Here's what we're going to be doing this year. Here's what we have to offer. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on. So that's tonight. And then 5 out of the next 6 webinars that we are going to be doing will tackle each topic individually. And in those 5 out of 6, I will be picking activities that either we created for IB or that were kind of updated for IB, and we'll be looking at them more in depth. Today, I'm just going to give you some highlights to them, but those topic 1, 2 through 5, I'm going to pick certain activities and then just kind of go through them with you all. So, and you'll notice that in the November 11th, I have one dedicated to the math exploration. So whereas tonight I'm going to talk about some of the struggles that students had with the IA, in that webinar on November 11th, I'm going to kind of really show you how you can help your students, write a good paper, and kind of look at some points where maybe using TI technology or other forms of technology can help that process. So that's that November 11th session. And then finally, right at the end, right before exams, we're going to do a little math prep, exam prep. So in that April 14th. So I think that gives us roughly, 3 to 4 weeks before the exams take place. So I'll actually, yes, you can register for all of them. Thank you. So yeah, so if you register for tonight, you actually have the option to register for all of them, but you can go in and register for all of them right away. So thank you for asking about that. And all these are listed. I just threw this slide in there just to double check, just to kind of let you know that pretty much once a month we're going to be getting together. The only month you see there that we're not is December, just because, the winter holidays. So I just decided, we're not going to do that. So they will initially, since we're still in kind of the early stages, so I'm just answering Paul's question here. Since there is some overlapping topics, I've tried to hit the overlapping topics first, and then there will be certain times when it's more approaches and analysis, and then more applications and interpretations. I'll try to do both, but they will branch a little bit, okay, this year. But again, I'm trying to do an overlap initially before we really try to focus on one thing or another. Thank you for asking, Paul. All right, so moving on. All right, struggles with the assessments. I will tell you that we started in April, toward the middle end of April, when the IAs started coming in. And it was an interesting process because not only was this new for students, well, not all students, so I take that back, because the students who were normally in the higher level or standard level math courses, they were kind of, and the teachers were kind of used to the math exploration. But for those who are in studies and then transferring over to the applications and interpretations class, it was a struggle for both students and teachers. This was a very interesting process, because just like last year in May 2020, where we took every IA and graded it, we did the same thing this year. So we needed more examiners and more moderators to grade these. That was a tough process to get those moderators through to be comfortable enough to grade those papers. So a lot of teachers struggled. I will be honest with you. So there's a learning curve going on, and I think that curve is going to go on for another year or so, because it was new. People were not used to what was needed from the students, and you definitely saw that in the style of paper. But I think we'll get better. I do, but that was a struggle. So just kind of looking at this list here I just took some of the topics that kind of popped out the most, that seemed to struggle with the students. And like I said, the students who went from math, or the teachers, I should say the teachers who went from math SL or math HL, there was a smoother transition to the new curriculum, because they were already doing a math exploration. They knew what to expect. But my focus, which was on the applications and interpretation students, there was a struggle kind of going from the math studies project to the exploration. And unfortunately, I think grades were lower because of that. And you saw IB initially said that if you did a studies project or a statistics project like most students did, that it would be graded similarly when they went to the math exploration. And in the 100 papers or so that I graded, that did not transfer over too nicely. It really didn't, because I would say 60% of those papers were still statistics projects. And, it was tough to grade on the criterion for the math exploration when students were still kind of going for the old criterion for the studies paper. So that was my first bullet point there, which is, the exploration versus the statistics project. Students were still in that, and I think that's because the teachers were comfortable with that. So they're still kind of, that's, I have to say it's the easier route when the students are doing a stats project. Now, you can still do a stats project. You just have to do a little bit more in-depth questioning of what's going on with your data. Whereas the math studies paper, the project, you can just kind of check off the bullet points that, oh, I got this, I got this, I got this, I'm done. You have to dig further, and I didn't see that a lot when I was grading these. Length of papers was an issue, and I don't think the papers were too short. I think the papers were too long. I know in the math exploration in our teacher support material, they said between 12 and 20 pages. It shocked me how many people were doing 20 to 40 page papers when that is just way too much. It lost the focus of the paper and it became difficult to read at times. So when length of a paper was an issue, that's when, yes, I'm getting 25, 30, 35 pages, not including an appendix or a bibliography, that sort of thing. So that's, length of paper was a bit of an issue. And this is something that happened with the studies course. When they were doing the math project, they were using too many math processes, and it was taking away the focus of the paper. Because in a math exploration, you should be doing 1 to 3 processes and really focusing and digging into those. And when you're doing 5, 6, 7, 8 math processes without really giving sufficient reasoning and backing of why you're using that and how it's helping the paper, again, it takes away from the readability. So just too many math processes. A big thing with the math exploration is making that personal connection. And students would initially say something about that in the opening of the paper, which was great. This is how I picked the topic. This is why I liked it, that sort of thing. But then they lost that personal connection as they went through the paper. And it's really important for, as they go through the paper and as they work through the results, to really ask those questions. And it kind of goes in with my second last bullet point there of asking what if or what's next when they really kind of dig deeper there. And that's really how they can show that connection to the paper and to the topic. And unfortunately, they were just kind of scratching the surface with this paper. A big thing in any type of math paper that you're using or writing is, what math are you selecting? You need a description of that, and why are you using it? What's the reason behind it? How is it going to progress in your paper? And again, students just kind of scratch the surface, did the bare minimum with that sort of thing. Math notation is just something that, as a teacher, when I read my rough draft of the student's paper, I'm highlighting the use of that caret key, or use of the E notation if they're using a calculator, stuff like that I know that they can fix. And I highlight that and say, here, you need to fix this before you turn in your final paper. It's stuff like that I hate taking off for, but students really need to fix with respect to that. And I really thought that teachers need more guidance. I know we came off of this COVID year, and we're still in this COVID situation, and not a lot of teachers got to go to the face-to-face, training for these new IB classes. And I think that really showed in these assessments, is that, where you go to the trainings and you can do some sample papers together and grade them together, that's so different than doing that online if you were getting trained online. And so I think teachers definitely need more guidance. So Lynn, you asked, what should the notation look like? So little things that kind of popped out to me when I was grading were, if people were putting in x squared, definitely don't use x caret 2. That's a big no-no. if people are using their calculators or Excel to generate numbers, where the E pops up for the scientific notation, that's something they cannot do. You know, taking pictures of their calculator screen, that's a big no-no. Just stuff like that, that kind of like using the correct chi symbol for chi-squared. So those are things that commonly come up with that. And honestly, Lynn, I feel what you're saying there, because when I read these papers, um, there, if you can send me, I have some sample items from that. So if you can send me an email, and I'm going to share my email address at the end, I will send you what I have. Okay. So you can kind of run down that list and make sure you're checking things out. Okay. So thank you, Lynn, for asking. The more I can share with you, the better, because I want to read a good paper. And I know teachers want their students to write good papers. So anything I can do to help, that would be fantastic. All right. So that's just a quick overview of the Math IA struggles. And again, I can go into more specifics when I go through the IA webinar. So that's going to happen in November. So I'm going to move on to the actual exam. So here are some issues that kind of popped up when we were grading the exam. Now, I got to be part of the group that, did the standardization. Kind of, we went through all the questions, and we were trying to figure out how students were answering, and what we should accept as possible answers based on the mark scheme. And so that was an interesting process. And just to kind of see the different ways that students answer these questions were very, very interesting. But I have to say, this is the first year, and that's why I put this bullet number 1, is I was amazed at how many unanswered questions there were. And so I don't know how your students came out of the exam, for those people who had students this year take it. But and I'm not talking about if it's an A, B, and C part, they didn't do part B or didn't do part C. I'm talking about whole questions that they just skipped. Now, you'll always get the students that just kind of write their name and do a few things, and that's it. But this was really shocking to me when I saw just the blanks. And I definitely think that had to do with your situation based on what country you're in and what your rules were based on if you were sitting the exam, or if you were in school the whole time, if you were not in school the whole time. So I just think people did not get to everything that they wanted to for the year. So I'm hoping that's going to be better. It was, with respect to the calculus topics, was worse than the stats topics. So you can see just kind of the list that I have here. These were the ones that popped out at me the most with respect, but the one question that really just did everybody in, and it was crazy, and it was right down here at the end. It was finding the inverse of a rational function and then the domain and range of that. That was across the board just the worst question, the worst resulted question for the examination process that I saw. And so that was a tough question there that students were just not able to handle. But you can kind of just scan through this list that I kind of just saw from not only myself when I was grading, but I had a team of like 8 to 10 examiners under me, and I was getting their feedback as well. So these were the kind of topics that kind of stuck out to what was going on, what were they struggling with. So my goal is, when we do the individual topic webinars, is for part of that webinar is to say, okay, well, we're going to talk about, what happened with the volume and surface area on the exam, and what can we do differently to kind of enhance that and make it better for next year. So that's my goal, hopefully, for each of the webinars to do that. But it was a struggle. I know this was such a weird year because coming off a year where nobody took the exam, then coming into a year where part of the world took the exam. Who knows what next year is going to look like, but hopefully it'll just look better. I know it's the best situation is for us to be face to face with this, but keep our fingers crossed that we get there. But those were some of the struggling points with respect to the exam. And like I said, during the webinars for each topic, I'll go into more specifics. Yeah, exactly. That's the key right there. When you go from face to face, feeling comfortable, to online, not knowing where everybody's at, if your students are really doing the work and putting forth that effort, and it was, when you say struggle for most, it was almost all. There's only a select portion of students who can learn well on their own. And we just saw that last year. And that's what had me questioning how they scaled the scores this year. And teachers, exactly, Lynn, you're right, 100%, 100%. I was lucky. I got to do face-to-face last year. Now our schedule changed slightly, so I still didn't get to everything I wanted to and had to cram stuff in at the end. But I was lucky. We were face-to-face. So I'm glad that we were there. I just am not envious for the students who sat the exam, but also had to be online learning. So usually they come out in the fall. So they should be coming out in that kind of September timeframe. But again, if you want to know, I don't really get inside information on that, but usually it's in that September, October timeframe that the mark schemes come out. Maybe even sooner, maybe even in August. But if I hear something and you send me an email address just to kind of send information to about tonight or other webinars, I'll be more than happy to share that with you. So, I love being able to grade the exams because I do get access to the mark schemes. It just kind of helps me process through everything and what the kids are going through during that exam time. All right, so kind of moving on to the next part. All right, so what is TI doing? Okay, so on this screen, and I'm going to go to the TI website in a second here, but we have a section of the TI website dedicated to IB. Yes, and you can register for all of the webinars. And thank you, Ruth. Awesome. Right on top of that. That's why I love having Ruth here to help me. Excellent, excellent. So on the TI website, what we have is a section, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. Here are the links for both of those. But you're going to go to the TI or the education.ti.com, and then you're going to go to where it says activities at the top. And when you click on that, then you'll see IV resources. Okay. And like I said, these right here are the 4 new activities for those people who asked about Voronoi diagram. So that's one of the new activities. And then I also updated activities. The updated activities were activities that were currently on the TI website that I decided needed a little IB nudge to them. And since TI has multiple variations of calculators, I made sure that if you're using the TI-84 or using the TI-Nspire, that the activities kind of meshed with one another. So you were both doing the same things in the activities, but one was on the Nspire platform, one was on the 84 platform. So that's what I did with the updated activities. And then every activity that's on the website on the IB page has an exam style question that goes along with it. So what I did is I took IB questions that I used and loved and kind of modeled them and created my own versions with respect to that. So there's a bunch of sample questions for you to use. You can change them if you want. Again, they're Microsoft versions of them, Office versions. So again, do what you want with them. Use them, share them. It's your call. So it's there for you to use. So when I go, and I'm going to click on here so we can go to that website. So here is where we're at with the TI website, the education.ti.com. So if you go, you can go to one of two places. You can go to resources, okay, and you'll notice it says IB resources, or you can go to activities and it says IB resources. So either one of those, and thank you, Ruth, for putting in that page. Click on that, and here's our IB diploma page. All right, so looking at this, you'll see that there are 3 activities for both the analysis and approaches, applications, and interpretations. Some of those definitely overlap with one another because there are topics that overlap. Down, and I'll get to those in a second. Down at the bottom here, you'll notice here's where you can register for the webinars. Here's where you can find all of our old webinars. So let's say that you miss one of our IB webinars, shame on you. Okay, but that's okay. Not everybody can make it. They will be saved here and you can kind of listen to them later on. All right, and then if you have any questions after listening to the on-demand webinars, just send me an email. All right, I'll be happy to work on that with you. Because this is, I love that TI approached me about this, and I love the effort that they're putting into it. So I'm really excited about this. So just kind of looking, and you can click on either one of these. So if I were to click on applications and interpretations for the browse activity, you'll have 2 drop-down menus here. You got one for the topic. So you have your calculus functions, geometry, trig, numbers and algebra, stats and probability. You also have technology, which is Nspire and 84. Okay, so you pick. And then here are all the activities. Okay, now the history to these activities is there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of activities that TI have already had in their wheelhouse. And they asked me and some people from, I think it was TI in Australia, to come up with a list of activities that they might be useful, that might have that connection. You are welcome, Lynn. I'm glad I can help, or I'm glad we can help. I'm not doing it all myself. So we came up with a list of activities that just kind of overlapped with IB. And that's what we first put on. That was kind of phase 1 of all this. And then then we started developing some new ideas. What can we do next? And that was where the webinars came in. And then phase 3 was creating new activities. So, and you'll notice, okay, that if you scroll through these, okay, with the 84 or with the Nspire, sometimes you'll see where it says new and updated, okay? So that's the ones that were currently uploaded back in May-ish, that we kind of repurposed either old activities and kind of redid them with respect to IB, or like and I'm going to go to the Voronoi diagram one. So, or the Voronoi one, that's brand new, okay? So if we click on that one, I'll just click on the Voronoi. So I'm on the Nspire activity. So you can also find this if you use a TI-84, okay? The Nspire one's a little more technology interactive because you get to create your own Voronoi diagram on the Nspire. You can't really do it too easily on the 84. That's why there's a little bit more. So, but it's not something you have to create on the Nspire. If you want to, and you have a little bit extra time, then the students can create their own Voronoi diagram. But if not, there's a good activity that students can kind of do with it. So this kind of gives you a little overview of the activity and kind of stuff about the lesson. And at the bottom, you will see all of the documents that you will need for this activity. So you'll see there's a student activity, a teacher version of that with notes for your benefit, and then an IB question to go along with it. So you'll notice that there's a PDF version. You'll notice that there's a doc version, okay? And if you want to make any adjustments to it because maybe you don't like something, maybe you want to enhance something, maybe you want to change a question, you can do that with the doc version, all right? But then what I love is just looking at the IB question, you know, real quick. What we have here to offer is, again, you'll notice, and this is what I found out about this year's IB exam question, it didn't really ask you to create a Voronoi diagram. It asks you to use the idea of how to create a Voronoi diagram to answer a real life question, okay? And that's what I tried to duplicate here in the sample for you to use. So again, and if you don't like this or if you want to adjust it, make changes, please do so. Because this is, again, yours to use and abuse as you want. All right. There's also, if you want to go a little bit further with this topic, there's a friend of mine who works for TI. That's his full-time job. He thought it was a cool idea to kind of go into this, what's called the Lulani triangulation. So there's a little activity kind of digging a little bit deeper with that. So not only do we give you something that will take you through an activity that will review and go over and use Voronoi diagrams, not only do we give you a sample IB question, but we also give you something, a little activity to go even further if you wanted to with that. So that's just a quick little sample of the Voronoi diagram. Okay, and again, anything, that was one of our new ones. The t-test was one of our new ones, brand new. I'm trying to find an updated one. Sampling techniques was a brand new, but does a correlation exist? Like this one right here. This is just an updated one. So this activity existed, but what I did is I altered it slightly to not only align more with IB and what we do in our IB classes, but I also created an 84 activity that meshes well with it. So whatever technology you use in the class, you know, that's what we're using. And again, but it has the same stuff down here at the bottom. It has the teacher notes, student activity, IB question. So Lynn, you ask a great question. I believe that the TI-Nspire is the most beneficial calculator for a student to use. Does it do a lot for the student? Yes, but it also does a lot for you in demonstration purposes, in just kind of functioning with the math that they're using in class. The 84 is a wonderful calculator, easy to use, and it does everything you would need for an IB student. I just think the Nspire does more. And I'm not saying it does the work for them, because if you show them how to do things in the correct manner, then students will still do what they have to do, but then use the calculator to enhance what they're doing. And that's what I think the Nspire does. I'm a little biased because I started my teaching career using the 83 and then the 84 for probably the first 15 years of my teaching. And then I was introduced to the Nspire, thought it did too much, didn't give it a chance for about 5 years. And then I was introduced really to what I can do with the Nspire. And they have this wireless system called the Navigator that allows me to just interact with the students through the calculator more than I could ever do with the 84 or Casio or whatever calculator you're using. So I'm biased with respect to the Nspire. That's the one I like to use on a daily basis. And it gets me through the year. And I don't know what I would do without it. I could always go back to the 84, but I just love what the Nspire does for my classroom. So thank you for asking that. So that's what we have on the TI website right now with respect to. Now, Lynn, you were asking for, are we talking about, just the students who, do you think they can handle the use of the Nspire, or if they can, just because maybe the 84 is a little more user-friendly for those people who haven't used it? If you could expand on that question, that would be fantastic. So when you're on this page, oh, that's good. Thank you, Ruth, for saying that. Saving the chat, that's good, because it has questions and answers in there. Awesome. So when you are going through this, just a real quick demonstration here. If I am an 84 user and click on that, only the 84 activities show up. But what we're trying to do is, no matter if you're using the 84 or if you're using the Nspire, all of them are going to be aligned, and you're not going to miss out on anything with respect to either one. But I can also then say, oh, I only want the calculus ones. So these are your calculus activities. Or if I only want the geometry and trig ones, here are what I'm going to be dealing with. So, so that's just a quick demonstration for that. All right. So we only got about 10 minutes left. Yes, thank you for asking that. Yeah, I'm just wondering about the, what track we were talking about with that. So let's go back to click off of this, go back here. So what are we working on now? Okay. So after the current non-IB students who have not found success in math classes, do you prefer? Yes. Okay, great. So thank you for expanding on that, Lynn. Yes, because if you have not yet explored, and I'll go back to that real quick. What I love about this website is, under the activity, I can go to the Math Inspired section, and once I click on that, I have all of these math topics to choose from here. And if I'm teaching just Algebra 1, here we are talking about linear functions. We have all these activities that are already created for you to use. And I think that is a great hands-on way, because they all come with, if you click on any one of these, they all come with activities that can be downloaded onto the calculator pretty easily. And for those kids who are not in IB classes but still want that hands-on real life activity, these are created for you. And that's, nothing against the 84, because you can still get activities on the 84. It's just that the Nspire activities, for me, navigating through them is more user-friendly. They look better. There's more you can do with them. It's just the power of the calculators is better. So I just think there's a little bit more benefit out there for you as a teacher and the student using the Nspire. But I'm not trying to sell you on these. This is just my personal opinion, because I use them. I believe in them, because I work with, 5, 6 other math teachers who, some of them like the Nspire, but they're still 84 users. So I'm still trying to get more of them involved in my school. But if you're an 84 lover, I can talk to you about doing more with the 84 if you'd like, because they're always updating the technology. But you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So what we're currently working on now, after I got done with the examination session, I looked at the questions that students struggled with. And these were 4 that kind of popped out to me. All right. And so I asked TI, I said, here's my next 4 topics. Can I write these activities? And then I said, can we update these activities? So these are the things that I saw students struggling with on this past year's exam. That's why these are there. So what I'm going to be asking you in a few minutes now is, you know, what other things would you like to see being done? Because people earlier in the chat gave me some ideas with Voronoi diagrams, binomial PDF or binomial distribution, stuff like that, a chi-square. That's stuff that I've worked on and I've done that. So I'm glad that you asked that, and I'm glad I got to show you that we have that. And if you want more of that, I want to give that to you. So these are the new activities. So standard normal distribution, good. And I'm just writing this stuff down because that's what I want to cover for my next phase. So I saw on the exam that students just struggled with knowing what an angle of depression was. Okay. All right. And I'm glad, thank you, Jasmine, about algebraic proof, because that usually wasn't on the IB exam, but it's now part of the topic. So algebraic proof, good. I like it. So students did not know how to tell what an angle of depression was, which was crazy to me. Again, I already talked about finding the inverse of a rational function. So that's going to be part of this round. Students struggle with doing. There was a 3D surface area. I can't remember if it was. Yeah, it was surface area. They couldn't piece together what the figure was, and they couldn't find every side, the area of every side, and put it all together. So that was one they struggled with. And then there was a final question on the applications and interpretations exam where they had to use integration for profit equations, where students just struggled with tremendously. So those are where the new activity ideas came from. And then the updated activities were just some struggles here and there that I thought, okay, we already have these activities. Let's kind of enhance them a little bit. So that's where those came from. So basically, that's what we're working on right now. We're hoping to have those out by the November timeframe, maybe November, December. Kinematics is always good. Thank you. So please look for those. So thank you for, especially Jasmine, that's the third one you've put in there. Awesome. Please, if you can think of something later on and you want to see it happen, please send me an email, because my email address is right here, wilkiedan@gmail.com. Solving trig equations, good. I want to hear from you. So not only for your suggestions, but if you go to our new and updated activities and you see something that just maybe something's a little off, or you think it can be enhanced or altered, please let us know, because I want to fix it or I want to make it better. So just again, and I can take it. I got tough skin. It took me a long time to grow that tough skin, but please, 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 just kind of let me know if you see anything that could make our life better and easier going forward, because I want this to be successful. I want you to get something out of this. Hopefully you'll join me for the next 7 webinars going forward. I struggled a little bit this year with the new curriculum. So I know if we work on this together and we help one another out, then we could just improve it across the board. All right. And thank you. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ideas right now. So that's awesome. So keep them coming. So send me an email. Let me know what you think. And so right now we have about 5 minutes to go. Good. have Ashley, I just saw Ashley tonight at Meet the Teacher night. So tell her to send me an email. I'll be happy to help her. So I'm glad. Thank you, Suzanne. That's my goal. Is I know I do a lot of talking for 50 minutes, 55 minutes, but if there's anything I can do to help you get through this year, just let me know. And if you want to carry on a conversation after the webinars, ask questions, share what you got, because I'm looking for stuff too. If you found something that is useful in your classroom and you thought the students were successful, share it with us. So I got some questions. So Lynn said, let me get to my chat box. She said, are you recommending students not do a stats IA? So no, that's not my recommendation, but if they do a stats IA, just push for those students to take that further. For the studies paper, it was good enough to basically collect the data, analyze, and talk about the results. That's about it. For the math exploration, we want them asking those what if and what's next questions. Where could we take this? Where would this data go in the future? Why is this happening? We really want them to dig a little bit further with that. And again, Jorge, I think that's your name there. We don't want to steer them away from stats projects, because I actually read some really good stat paper explorations. But again, it's just kind of digging deeper. Once they've collected the data and then analyzed it, take it further with that. So that would be great. Example, they do not need to show. Yes, exactly. Jasmine, you are 100% correct. Where in the math studies project, showing the work for R was important because that was a further process. Yes, it's okay to show that, but you don't have to show that for 5 pages if there's a lot of data. It's more about interpreting the R. What does the R mean? And knowing the steps in the process. I can't tell you how many students I have read where people, jumped to the finding a line of best fit. Okay, why would you find a line of best fit? What is the purpose of that? If the data was not correlated correctly, why would you even bother with a line of best fit? Remember, there should be a process for that. You should be doing a correlation graph. You should be doing a stat plot and kind of seeing the correlation. If there seems to be a correlation, then find the R value and interpreting what that means for the real life situation. And then if it's a good enough R value, then using the line of best fit. But then how do we use the line of best fit? What does it mean? So those are the things that they have to take further with respect to doing that stats paper. Yes, more reflection. And I love seeing the reflection throughout the paper because yes, it's okay to do the reflection kind of at the end, but sometimes it's tough for you to read a 10-page paper and then reflect on something that you did in page 3, but you're seeing that on page 10. So just reflecting throughout, I think, gives more flow, more fluidity, and you don't have to backtrack a lot when you're reading the paper. So reflecting throughout with that. So survey collect original data. Yes, exactly. So I love when students do it on their own. Anybody can, yes, go on Google and find data and then interpret it, but 1,000 other people have done that, okay? So for you to collect a sample of data and then talk about the good and bad parts about that sample and then analyze it yourself and then dig deeper with it, that is something that we're looking for, doing that on your own. That is awesome. Yes, a lot of why. What's the why? So when they wonder, do they score better if they move on and start exploring that further, or do they lose criterion A for conciseness? So that's a good question. So for the conciseness, please make sure. I've read a lot of papers where students would go in a certain direction okay, so let me take that back. They will say they are going to go in a certain direction. but then not really explore that direction. Okay, they'll find another avenue, okay, and then explore that and not really talk about what they originally wanted to. So it's okay to wonder, okay, that is fine, but make sure that they stick to their plan, because then they can always reflect on what further happens from that. Because they can always update their paper. If they see that it goes in another direction, they have the ability to change what they have written, which I never understood. So they always have that ability to make it more concise. They really do, going through that. Yes, for the aim. Make sure they stick with that. Exactly. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, those should be two different things. All right. Kind of like, the plan is the steps, but the aim is what, they're trying to achieve or trying to see, or, what is that accomplishment at the end. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been, yes, I was about to end things now because we're going past 9 o'clock, but it is helpful to state the plan. They don't have to be as in depth as they were with the studies, okay, but they do have to state somewhat of a plan, okay. But we'll talk more about that with respect to the IA in November. So thank you so much for hopefully a nice night. And thank you, Ruth, for taking that back. I should have passed that along. I apologize. So hopefully to see many of you for session webinar number 2.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We had a great session there with chat, lots of questions in the chat, lots of great suggestions for Dan. There's just a reminder about sharing out through your Twitter and download certificate of attendance. I'm going to put that in the chat if that's something that you will find useful. You'll also probably in the next couple of days get an email with a link to the recording of tonight's webinar. Yes, it was recorded. You can watch it again. You can share it with colleagues. And we'll also have information about that link for your certificate of attendance. Post-webinar follow-up as you sign off when you leave the webinar. If depending on what platform you're using to connect to WebEx, you will have an opportunity to save the chat. Remember, lots of great information, Q&A, and links in there. And there will be a follow-up questionnaire survey kind of thing. And thank you all. Thanks, Dan. See you all again next month.
Thanks, everybody. See you next month.